Hello everybody, welcome back to another SUPboarder video where we're going to be looking at the new 2023 Aqua Marina inflatable paddleboard range. A big change from Aqua Marina from the 2022 range to this 2023. Some of the boards you will see they've carried over in shape, but construction, package, the environmentally friendly side of the brand has really improved dramatically. Going to be speaking about all of those things in this video, and of course going to help you understand if you should be looking to buy into the Aqua Marina range in 2023. So Aqua Marina are a Chinese-based inflatable paddleboard brand that have been around for a really long time. We have been reviewing Aqua Marina boards since the very first time we started reviewing paddleboards at SUPboarder, but even in the early days they always have been a very competitive price point, and they've got a lot of you on the water, and a lot of you are very happy with the Aqua Marina boards. Now the good thing about Aqua Marina is they do listen to you, the paddlers, and us when it comes to our comments, how they can improve, our negatives of the boards in the past, and they really have made big changes in this new 2023 range. Now of course this is an overview video, so I'm not going to go into loads of detail about each board, but we will be doing specific board reviews over the next coming months on SUPboarder, so definitely keep an eye out for those videos. And remember, if you want to find out more information, you can always get on the comments section below, or if you're a member of SUPboarder Pro, get on the Ask the Experts and ask us as many questions as you want about all brands, not just Aqua Marina, and we'll happily get back to you. So the range of inflatable paddleboards that Aqua Marina have got in 2023 does look very similar to the range of last year. You're still going to have your all-round range of boards. A Breeze 910 by 30, you've got the Vapor 104 by 31, the Fusion 1010 by 32, and you've got the bigger Monster 12 foot by 33. Remember, those all-round boards were the entry level, first time to paddleboarding boards that can do it all, but they were very competitive price points. So they were the cheapest boards from Aqua Marina. If you wanted to go up a grade in stiffness, construction, and getting a slightly better board to paddle on the water, you were looking at the advanced all-round range. They've got the Coral in two colours. You've got the Beast, which has been the go-to board for a lot of people, 10.6 by 32. You've got the Magma 11.2 by 33 and the Atlas 12 foot by 34. You're looking at just over €100 extra for the advanced all-round range, and that money is going to go into a better pump, a better paddle, better construction. The board is stiffer overall, and it is going to give you a better paddling feeling on the water. So if you're getting into the sport, or you're going to be committed to the sport, definitely I would really push you more into the advanced all-round range than the all-round range. Now I'm going to be speaking a bit more about constructions and how stiff these boards are in a minute, and you'll see a bit more about why you should buy into a board with a better construction. But keeping on a look at the boards in the range, let's move on to the touring range of boards. So you've got Coral touring boards, two colorways again with that. That's an 11.6 by 31. And then you move into the Hyper double chamber boards. They do an 11.6 by 31 and a 12.6 by 32. Now the touring range of boards is going to be designed for somebody who you could enter as a new paddler, definitely, because they're still quite wide and quite stable, but they're really going to be aiming towards somebody who wants to paddle that much further. So if you are wanting to paddle around the corner, see what's further down the beach, see what's around the next canal bend, those are the boards you're going to be wanting to paddle. But if you really want to paddle fast, you're going to be looking at the race boards. You get a 12.6 and a 14 foot. A much narrower board is going to be much faster to paddle. It's going to allow you to move on top of that water way quicker, hence why they've labelled it up as a racing board. Now you could use this board as a fitness board as well, no doubt, but you're obviously going to be a little bit higher in level because it is that much narrower in width, because it isn't going to offer you as much stability as a wider based board. We have actually reviewed several of those boards in the past, and to be honest, the race is actually a pretty good value entry price point if you want to get into racing. So definitely for you budding racers out there, that could be a board to look at. Now, Aqua Marina have still got quite a big fitness range. The main board in the range is the Diana, At 10.8 by 34, you've got a large, open, flat platform there that's very easy to do a lot of SUP fitness maneuvers. And it does make a great all-round board. If you're wanting to do a bit of everything, you could also do it on this board. Another board that they've kept in the range from last year, got some great features on this board, is the white water board. 9.6 by 33. Still nice and stable. That's been a really popular board in the Aqua Marina range for a few years now. They've had different shapes and different styles of that board, but that board has always worked quite well with a lot of whitewater paddling. Now, I'm not going to go into loads of information about that board because we are going to have a full review from Beth, our whitewater specialist, to give us the rundown on that new board and what she thinks of it. So if you're interested in whitewater paddling, definitely look out for that full review coming from her soon. Another board that they've carried on in the 2023 range is the Aqua Marina Wave. It's an 8.8 by 30. That was the board that went in our SUPboarder Pro inflatable paddleboard surf test. It actually did pretty well in that test, to be honest, as well. It's a very good price point. It's got a really nice fin setup. So if you're wanting to get into SUP surfing, they have that board in their range as well. They've also got the windsup, which we used last year as well. A lot of fun if you want an all-round shape and put a windsurf rig on it as well. They've kept that shape the same, 10.6 by 33. And more boards that they've kept the same is their multi-sport boards. You've got the Super Trips and they've also got some mega SUPs and some airship race SUPs if you're looking to paddle with more people. And the last two boards I'm going to speak about, you've got the Fishing Drift, a really super wide board, which I've actually used several times fishing. And definitely for the kids out there, you've got the Kids Vibrant 8 by 28. That was one of the standout boards for last year. My daughter Izzy helped me review that one. She's 8 and she found it one of the best boards to use because it's so lightweight, easy to carry, and it's nice and easy to paddle in a straight line. Definitely check out that past video if you want to find out more information on the Kids Vibrant. And that's not all in the Aqua Marina range, of course. They've got a load of air kayaks and air canoes. To be honest, there's a lot of really good technology and developments going into those. We don't cover them so much on SUPboarder, but we have reviewed the Cascade in the past. So if you're into inflatable kayaking or maybe doing a bit of both, inflatable SUP and kayaking, definitely check out the Cascade. And another product that actually works well with the kayaks and with the SUPs, and it's a little bit controversial for some of you, it's the battery power drive units that you can plug on the bottom of your board or kayak to give you that extra speed of propulsion. We've reviewed the Blue Drive. They've also got a few new products which they brought into the 2023 range from that. Again, whether you love or hate the electric style fins that give you the extra propulsion, they are a great asset and they can really help a lot of people who are maybe struggling to paddle in certain conditions, or you can use them as a safety backup. Look out for maybe some future videos I'm going to be doing on SUPboarder about the Aqua Marina range, and definitely have a look at some of the stuff we've already done on SUPboarder. Okay, so that was just a quick overview look of all the products that Aqua Marina have got in their range this year. As I said, a lot of the shapes are very much the same as last year. A lot of the dimensions are still the same as last year. So the boards are going to paddle pretty much the same as last year, except there is a big difference in the construction this year. For a start, the boards have now gone to welding and heat fusion, a very good way of making your board last much longer, and it's a way of reducing the amount of glue that's actually going into your board in the first place. Heat welding is where they melt the PVC together to make the bond, instead of adding glue and sticking the two layers together. There is something Aqua Marina also say they do, which I have not heard about before. It's called high frequency welding. I guess in many terms it almost does the same thing as the heat fusion. They actually use electrodes to create a heat which then melts the PVC and sticks the two together. Now this to me sounds like a very interesting process, and we look forward to hearing more about it. But anything that's reducing the amount of glue that's used in the first place, or reducing the amount of boards that are ending up in landfill because they can't be repaired, is only a good thing. But it doesn't just stop there with the environmental changes and the materials that Aqua Marina are using now. They say they are doing digital printing on their boards. And that in turn is helping their environmental footprint as well. They've reduced a lot of the plastic packaging that has been used in the boards in the past. You have now got recycled paper rolled in those boards. I'm going to speak about that into a bit more detail in a minute. And they've also changed their backpack material now to a material called SUPpack, which is where they take plastic bottles and make them into a material. Seeing Aqua Marina put those changes into the bag, sort of change we don't usually see unless we're looking at top end boards. So it is good to see that Aqua Marina are really pushing that even at the lower price point. All the boards are made of an internal core of drop stitch, but the layers that are on top of their boards and on the side of their boards does change, and you find that the more layers there are, it's going to give you a stiffer board. But remember, the less layers you have on a paddleboard is going to make your board much lighter to use and carry and pick up. So you're first off, the cheaper price point boards, they are going to be the lighter boards, the drop stitch light technology. Moving up from there, you've got your double stringer technology. That construction you'll see on the Coral, the Beast, the Magma and the Atlas. From there, we're looking at the double layer technology. You're going to find that on the boards that require a little bit more reinforcing, like the Rapid Riverboard, the Wave, the Blade. The race board's double layer technology, except they have 2 extra stringers going on the top and they have 2 extra stringers going along the bottom. And last but not least, you've got the full double chamber technology, the DC technology, which you'll only find on the hyper boards. So let's look at the deflections of the 4 boards that we've been using. Now, before we jump into this, I just want to highlight one thing. Aqua Marina in the past had average to average poor deflections, to be honest. They weren't up there with the stiffest boards in the market, definitely. They weren't quite at the really bendy boards you find in supermarkets, but they could have been definitely better. And that is definitely what they have improved for 2023. We are pretty amazed with these new deflection results. If you're unaware of what our deflection test is, it's where we put every board on a gap of 1.5 meters, and then we put a weight of 75 kilograms on the middle, on the top of the board, and then we measure with a tape measure how much the board bends or deflects. A really stiff board is sitting around 6, 7, 8 millimeters. A really flexy board in this current market with the newer technologies is sitting around the 20, 21 millimeters. So now let's dive into the cheapest Aqua Marina board. We had the Vapor, that pumped up to 15 PSI, only dropped 13 millimeters. Okay, now this is straight away where it starts to get exciting. The equivalent boards last year and in the past, they were sitting way, way higher than that. So we've got a way stiffer board, and this is the cheap price point and the lower end construction as well. We then tested the Diana, which is the fitness board, still had a very, very good deflection at only 10 millimeters when it was pumped up to 15 PSI. But moving on to the slightly more performance-based boards with their extra stringer down the center, looking at the Coral range. Now this is an interesting one because this is only 4.7 inches thick. Having a thinner board is going to bend more, so you're going to find that the stiffness isn't going to be the same as a 6-inch thick board. And that only dropped 16 millimeters when pumped up to 15 PSI. Now to put it in the scale of things, with a 4.7 inch thick board, that is still a very stiff board for that thickness. So if you're a lighter person, you're going to get a lot more out of it when you're paddling on a thinner base board. You're going to have less windage with that board, and it's still very stiff as well. Now moving on to what should be the stiffest board, which is the new Aqua Marina Hyper double chamber. Is definitely going to give you more stiffness, and it's 6 inches thick. When this one was pumped up to 15 PSI in the outer chamber and 10 PSI in the inner chamber, it only dropped 8 millimeters. Now, the stiffest boards we've ever tested on SUPboarder have been sitting around 7 millimeters. So it's only a tiny fraction behind some of the stiffest boards we've tested. And this is a massive improvement from the previous Hypers. The boards have always been great shapes and worked really well for touring and exploring. Aqua Marina, you really need to be proud of yourselves. You've obviously done a lot more on the construction of these boards. A big, big turnaround from the previous year's boards. But that's not all that Aqua Marina have done this year. So now let's talk about the features that you're going to find on these boards, because a lot of these features are very, very different from last year's, and some of them you'll only find on Aqua Marina. The bungee setup is totally new this year. You've got a lot more bungees to use, which is a neat thing. You've got your more traditional sort of X style bungees up at the front on all of the boards, but the webbing is very different now. It used to be just a single bungee, now it's a wide bungee. The new red strap, they call it. Now that strap is an adjustable strap and it is easy to adjust. It does come undone a little bit when you're using it. You can put your flip-flops, your drink, stuff you need to easily get at quickly just there. The iSUP has that same bungee setup at the front, and it's also got a bungee setup at the back. The deck pads on the sort of more fitness-based boards and all-round range is different now. It's got like an embossed pattern pushed into the deck pad. It looks really smart, it's really well finished. You've got your more traditional diamond grip deck pad on the boards that require a little bit more traction. The more performance boards like the Race, the Surf, the Rapid, the Hyper, they have got raised EVA foam pads at the back. So when you're moving around the board, you can do a step back turn, you can feel where your foot is on the board. Now, looking at the bottom of the board, the first thing I'm going to talk about is the new fin box, the SAFS, the SAF fin box. Now, I first saw this fin box when I tested and reviewed the Aqua Marina Wave. Now, this is a very simple, quick fin box to use that really secures your fin in. Now, you do need to use the Aqua Marina fin that comes with your board. You can't buy another fin from a different brand, but it does go in the fin box really simply, and it's easy to get in and out, and it stays nice and securely and stiff in that fin box. Another thing on the bottom of the boards that you'll find on the Race and the Hyper is the tail edge. This is a edge that's stuck on the back of the board to help the water release off the back of the board. This is always a big discussion piece whether you have one on the back of your board or not, but we've done various tests ourselves and we do find that the water doesn't wrap up as much around the back of the board when you have these edges. So if you want to paddle further or faster again, you're going to require less effort to go the same speed or the same distance. Now, they did actually have that feature on some of their race and touring boards last year, but one thing they have which is completely new on the Hyper is their new 4 keel. It's designed to keep you tracking in that straight line in maybe windy or choppier conditions. We're going to go into that in way more detail in the full review, so look out for that in the future. So lots of new neat little features that they put on their boards, and to be honest, it doesn't just stop there. There are various other things you'll find with the packages. Our other general thoughts on the boards themselves, well, definitely the look of the boards I think has gone up a grade this year. Again, a lot of the stuff in the packages is very colour coordinated. Aqua Marina have always had good looking boards that have been quite well finished off compared to some of their equivalent rivals, but it's nice to see that they've still upped the game a little bit more for this year and they're really pushing and striving for better quality. Another thing that Aqua Marina have changed a lot more is the branding around the products. Like, you'll find every board's got its own little slogan written down the side. A quick word on the packages. Your cheaper price point boards like your all-round range versus your advanced all-round range, you're going to find the pump is going to be a V1 Aqua Marina pump opposed to the GRI V2 Aqua Marina pump, which is just a nicer, easier pump to use. You get more air in your board for less effort. And also you're going to find the paddles with the cheaper price point boards are going to be your aluminium plastic bladed paddles opposed to the fiberglass carbon nylon bladed paddles. So I have given Aqua Marina loads of pros and loads of praise for this new range, but what are the negatives? What are the things you need to be aware of in 2023? Now, the packaging has got much better. There's no doubt about it. It used to be all plastic and foam in previous years, but now they have put that paper in and cardboard. But there still is a large amount of plastic wrapped around the paddle, the pump, and various parts of the package. Aqua Marina are reducing this plastic, but I would like to see it all gone in the future. On the cheaper price point aluminium paddle, we can see that Aqua Marina have put in a sort of flat bevel in that top section of the paddle to stop it from twisting or rotating, and that doesn't really work. It doesn't really appear to be hitting any flat section in the midsection of the paddle to stop it from twisting. You can tighten up the clamp like you do with all of the 3-piece paddles, to be honest, and you can get a secure finish, but that doesn't really work as it should do. The paddle blades themselves, they still are fairly basic. The construction of the sort of carbon glass and nylon, more expensive blades, is a much nicer construction, but the blade itself is still quite heavy and it's still quite big for maybe a lot of the paddlers who will be potentially buying the coral type of boards. But that is about it for the negatives observations for this year's overview. I'm sure there'll be more stuff when we dive into the boards themselves in their own standalone reviews, but really the range for Aqua Marina in 2023 has seen some really great improvements. They look fantastic. They're still a great price point. No doubt they are still going to get a lot of you on the water for the first time this year, and they're going to get a lot of you into more disciplines like touring, fitness, whitewater, fishing, racing. There's loads of stuff to do with the Aqua Marina boards. If you've got any experience with Aqua Marina, good and bad, get it in the comments below. If you're new to paddling or you know some friends who are new to paddling, definitely share our SUP safe pages that give you all the information you need to get into paddleboarding safely. Loads of information, great series of videos that is very easy to watch and digest and to become safe on the water. Until next time, happy paddling, stay safe, and we'll see you on the next SUPboarder video.